The Kissing Booth 2 is the direct sequel to the 2018 Netflix original film, The Kissing Booth. Once again, brings back Joey King, Jacob Elordi, Joel Courtney, Molly Ringwald, and a new cast including Taylor Zakar Perez and Mace Richardson Sellers. And basically, if you are new to Max Talks Movies, thank you guys so much for joining me on another Netflix original film review. If you like Netflix original film reviews, TV show reviews, movie reviews in general, or streaming platform reviews, or even movie rankings, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And also, guys, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button. That's how you can support this channel to the best of your abilities. And I really appreciate you guys so much. And also, leave a comment section down below. Did you see The Kissing Booth in 2018? And did you also, if you haven't, would you watch the first one just to watch the second one? Tell me all your thoughts, non-spoiler fashion. And if you also have seen this film, which came out today, also leave a comment section down below if you enjoyed this movie, liked it more than the first, or didn't like it as much as the first. I was going to say, before I start this review, I do want to say, if you haven't seen The Kissing Booth 1, I would recommend watching the first one, then watching this review. I will be giving spoilers, guys. Spoiler warning here for Kissing Booth number 1 as I head into talking about the plot for this movie. So basically, guys, in this film, Joey King, who returns as our lead character, Elle, she basically now is in a completely different situation than she was in the first. Her boyfriend, Noah, played by Jacob Elordi, is now, as we saw at the end of the first one, is now in college. And now she is a senior with her friend, Noah's brother in the film. And they are working out. They have a lot of different issues. Joey King's trying to get into Berkeley because that's where her and her friend want to go to school. But also, she might want to go to Harvard with her boyfriend. So there's just a lot going on here. I personally, really, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I really didn't like this first movie. I had a lot of issues with it. It was my least favorite movie of 2018. So if that tells you how excited or not I was about heading into this film, I just wasn't. I hated the first movie. I thought the performances were lackluster. The script and the directing were even worse. And as someone who's in high school, I couldn't relate to anything that was going on in the film. So that also just pulls me out of the movie. And this movie's going to draw a lot of similarities to All the Boys, because those two really are the only Netflix original sequels in this genre to get multiple films down the line. To All the Boys got a sequel that came out earlier this year, and now we're seeing the Kissing Booth 2 now get their own Kissing Booth franchise having their own sequel. And they both came out in the same year. So, I mean, they're always going to draw comparisons because they keep releasing their movies in the same year. So I really, once again, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you, I can't really go into positives. I'll just talk about it throughout my negatives, but this is a bad movie. And once again, this franchise really, really suffers from real lackluster writing and weak characters that you're not really rooting for throughout the film. In general, the main difference I would say that makes this film worse compared to the first is that there are a lot more plot lines and subplots going on. There's a new guy, just like in All the Boys sequel, there's a new guy, Marco, who is played by Taylor Zakar Perez. And now he is involved, and he's kind of into Elle, and Elle's not sure if she should be going to Harvard and just risking her, changing her life for this one guy. So that's now we have another love triangle. Lee has, obviously back from the first one, he is in a relationship, and that's going through some issues because is he more committed to his girlfriend or Elle? And that's a lot, and there's a lot going on. The problem is there's so much going on that you just can't keep track of, that sometimes you lose what the movie's trying to ask of you. And this movie also is 2 hours and 10 minutes, and that is just way too long for this type of movie. This movie easily could have been 90 minutes. The first movie was an hour and 45, which is not a great runtime, but it's a really good runtime for this film. But this movie added 30 more minutes of screen time, of runtime to this movie compared to the first one. And this movie feels really long. Obviously, they want you to make you feel like you're really watching this over a year, but it shouldn't feel like a year when you're watching the film. This film needs to be a lot more fast-paced. There's also a lot of montages and a lot of voiceover. Joey King basically continues to give voiceover about what she's thinking in her head throughout the film. There's also so many montages. There were montages in the first film, but this movie just amped that up all the way up, where you're not really understanding what's going on. It's just kind of happening. Noah and Lee, who are supposed to be brothers, while they have good chemistry, they absolutely don't feel like brothers whatsoever. The way they interact with each other, the script doesn't really believe that they're brothers, in my opinion. That was one of the parts that really worked in the first film for me, was the fact that Lee and Noah are brothers, and that was the one rule. She can't date Lee's brother, and that was a good foil. Now, did I like the movie? I hated the movie, but that was one of the parts that I thought was a positive from the first film. And now this film kind of throws that to the side now. We're basically seeing Noah and Elle FaceTime each other basically every night, but I mean, we never get the fact that Lee cares that his brother's gone from college. We never get that why he's sending her out, but not him, to come visit him in college. There was just a lot going on. There's also a lot of, compared to the first film, this film, a lot more of the kids in their high school have a lot more storylines. There's a lot more love stories going on. But there's also just 3 main plot lines that don't need to be in this film together. There's a dance competition that Joey King wants to be in, because if she wins, which is a $50,000 grand prize, then she'll get to pay for her college, which obviously needs to be in this type of movie for some reason. And then there's the actual kissing booth, and I'll be honest with you guys, I forgot this was a kissing booth movie, because it's brought up once in the first act that basically it gets there, and this is also a non-spoiler review. Joey King and her character and Lee's character, Joel Courtney, they basically, of course, want the carnival again, want the kissing booth to be back. And it gets, obviously, unanimously accepted, because that's we have a movie here. But then it's not really brought up until maybe the last 20 minutes, and you realize that this movie really isn't about a kissing booth. Once there was a huge climactic point in the film, I thought the movie was over, and then I forgot, oh my God, we haven't even gone to the kissing booth yet, and that's what this movie feels like. It feels like the movie should be ending, but it keeps on going. Some storylines drag on forever. Sometimes they get resolved in the middle of the film, and then they're broken up again, and then they have to be resolved again in the third act. And I think Mace Richardson Sellers as Chloe was actually my favorite part of the film. Her character was super real, in my opinion, and her relationship with Noah, Jacob Elordi, was really good. And you actually understood where both characters were coming from, what her purpose in the story was. And that's why I liked her character a lot. She felt very necessary. But there were other love stories that didn't feel necessary at all. There were so many cliches that they went through. The movie, of course, is way too predictable. While Elle and Lee have great chemistry, because they're kind of not on the same page throughout the movie, you kind of don't feel their chemistry come through as much as the first film. And that's where this film really slips up. The characters don't really feel like they have any chemistry with each other. It's a shame, because I'm a huge now Jacob Elordi fan, because he was one of my favorite parts of Euphoria. And I highly recommend Euphoria. I've had some fans talking about Euphoria. Jacob is my favorite character in Euphoria. And I really didn't like him in the first one, but here he's good. But he just, for most of the movie, he's just in the movie via FaceTime. So that was kind of disappointing as well. The family aspect of these people always being friends also never really works. As I said, there's a Thanksgiving, and it kind of hits the pan. As a whole, guys, I really don't love being this negative, but for me, To All the Boys does this genre way better than Kissing Booth does. First of all, Laura Condor and Noah Centineo have amazing chemistry. And while I thought the first film in the To All the Boys franchise was kind of meh, I really enjoyed the second one. I actually enjoyed the second To All the Boys a lot more than the first film. And it's in my top 10 of the year so far. I think it's in my top 15 or something like that of the year. So I really enjoyed To All the Boys too. And I was hoping that this film, just like for me, now I hated the first film. I didn't really hate the first To All the Boys, but both films I wanted to see them use their strengths from the first one and really amp those up. For me, in the first film, the only parts I liked were the relationships, the chemistry between our characters, and then they fall apart because there's so many new characters that Vince Marcello, who's the director and screenwriter, wants to get in the movie. It gets way too crowded. The movie is 35, I mean, it's 25 minutes longer than the first one, and you can feel it. And at parts, it's way too predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen. You're not really rooting for our character because you know what she's going to do at the end of the movie. And as a whole, I really struggled to get through this movie. 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it felt a lot longer. So overall, guys, I got to be negative. This is in my opinion, all my rankings for both Netflix and movies as a whole this year. I've seen 42 overall movies, 27 Netflix movies, and this is falling in last place. I'm sorry. I really struggle with this movie. If you really like the first movie, I would highly recommend watching this movie, but I really didn't like the first movie, and I felt like this was just as bad, but had a lot more glaring issues for me as a script compared to the first one. The first one for me was better because it was a much simpler story. While it wasn't told well, it was still simple. It was good to follow. There was a lot of montages, a lot more characters that had screen time, and too much going on that it just pulled me out of the movie. If you enjoyed my review of The Kissing Booth 2 on Netflix, I'm sure you can find more videos. It'll pop up right next to my head at the end of the video of all my past Netflix original film reviews on this channel. Also, tomorrow at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific time, me and Joe Baldwin's back with me live on air. And we'll be giving our top 15 MCU films. You want to check out our past live streams as well. That'll pop up next to my head. Give me a like button if you're new to Mac Talks Movies. Please hit that subscribe button. And also, guys, share the video. We're almost hitting that 100 subscriber mark. Let's keep getting there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time.